When we picked up this 1967 Pontiac convertible, there was a ton of rust on the back end. So first thing we did was cut out all of that stuff, replace both the quarter panels and some underneath sheet metal, and turn it into a nice solid straight car. Next, we stripped the entire car down to the frame, welded in a really gnarly strengthening kit, had the whole thing powder coated, reinstalled it underneath the car with a full complement of QA1 suspension stuff. So this thing is all set to go. Now the car turned out great and it's really fun around town, but to make it a highway cruiser, we're gonna need to add some more gearing. That means a Gearstar 700 R4 Level 3 overdrive transmission, as well as a Kerry 9-inch bolt-in rear end. We stripped a couple of parts off it, sent it out to the powder coater, it came back this beautiful satin black. But if you bought this straight from Kerry, you could have it totally ready to bolt in. The 9-inch is badass. It's got 2 pinion bearings.
Correct.
Right, so it can't deflect really. And it's got a dropout center section, so if you wanted to bring like a bunch of different gear setups, you just have to pull this out, stick in a different one.
Large axle bearings.
Large axle bearing.
They actually make a kit for this to make it so you can pull the axle out without removing the hub, the floating axle.
Yep.
You can change third members in 15 minutes.
It's become kind of like this drag racing standard for the last 30 years or so. There's tons of parts, there's a million gear sets for it, and it's really easy to get one. You have a 9-inch in your Chevelle.
I do.
I've got one in my Cuda.
That's what makes it cool.
You got it.
We have them in all of our cars.
These are the Kerry Johnny joints. It's like a
Johnny?
spherical, but it's actually, the cup is rubber, so it's both got good control of motion, but is not super rough on the street.
I'm thinking we're going to lay this thing down.
Yeah.
I sense a lot of anger. That's the one.
Yeah. Ready? Yeah.
Well, we can't use these brake lines. I think I'm just going to crimp them off so they don't leak and snip them off.
Love it.
See if that shock bolt comes out. If you just, this one is right at that point. If you wiggle it, it comes right out. Okay, ready?
Okay. We're just looking at this old 10 bolt that's coming out. It's got a leaky front seal on the input yoke there.
Yeah, it's got bolts broken off.
It's not the best. But what is the best? That sweet 9-inch that's going in there. All right, last thing to put in is the QA1 tubular sway bar, and this whole thing is done back here. This car has a lot of fancy stuff underneath. Top, not so much.
Hold it, let me Hey, that was weird, it went right in.
Yeah, knock it on that one. There you go. When we threw this thing together, we had the sway bar swung down off the control arm on these 2 mounting tabs, and we realized that if we flip them up, everything sits better and the sway bar gives us much more ground clearance, so that's the way we're gonna run it.
So I just made another wire. We didn't have the right gauge, so I doubled it up. Plugged it into the blower motor. We don't really need high beam, so I unplugged that high beam and I plugged the blower motor into the headlight wire. Now when you turn on the headlights and put it on high beam, the heater comes on. But if it gets too hot, we can shut the high beams off and we're safe. Okay, I'm done. What do you got going on, Tony?
I am extending our exhaust out past the trunk. There's holes in the trunk floor, so exhaust is coming up into the trunk and then into our faces. So I'm putting some little turn downs on it to extend the exhaust past the bumpers.
Turn down for what?
So we can breathe.
Oh, I got you. Now, if we can't handle this, I figured we can make ponchos or a top.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I was thinking like a 2-headed poncho right in front.
Hell yeah. So it's 1,100 miles from Los Angeles to Denver, and we've done about 600, 650. We've got a bunch of miles left. We're having a blast. Utah is gorgeous. And if we had a top and we weren't freezing our asses off, this would be super fun because it's mid-October and we are in the Rocky Mountains.
Whose idea was that?
Yeah, we are going to haul during the day and try to make it before the sun goes down.
It was so cold, we had to put cardboard in front of the radiator so the car would warm up.
That's true.
And as soon as we did that, the sun came out and the car overheated.
Yep. Okay, so we're back with our Fury Roadmaster, and it's time to upgrade this thing. We got all sorts of comments and emails with you guys crying about how it's unsafe. I can't believe you put all that power into a car with drum brakes. What are you thinking? Boo hoo hoo. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a bunch of upgrades. We got a whole bunch of parts from Jegs. We're gonna do a full rear end upgrade. We're gonna do some brakes for you guys, and we're gonna do a better transmission and converter. Disc brakes.
Nice.
Everything's gonna be nice
So
and
all
safe.
that was a plan for another episode.
Totally.
How coincidental.
So when we're done with this thing, it's gonna be like a real complete driver.
Nice.
Before it was fun to do kind of burnouts at stoplights, but it should be fun maybe stopping it, going around turns, driving it on the highway.
Turns, go figure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. All right. It's gonna be party. Yeah, it is.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Somebody busted all the nice shiny stuff inside the rear differential. Who would that be, Tony?
Not me.
Hey, do you guys get smell-o-vision? If you do, bring that camera over here.
Yeah.
Because this smells bad.
Ugh, smells like 40 years of dirt.
You should be able to take this off and set it up here to change all the seals and clean everything without breaking any lines or bleeding the brake.
Yeah, but you just bent the brake line.
It's okay, we're gonna bend it back. Don't do that. It's fine.
I love the way these Mopars come apart, dude. It's so easy.
I like the way they come apart on the street. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you popped off a drive shaft and shot the caps across the parking lot?
Oh, a lot. You got a trick?
It's not really a trick, it's sort of a old school thing. They always use a little bit of electrical tape, even though the caps seem like they're on when you take them off.
Oh, yeah. I know that one.
As soon as you move it around, you lose them.
Yeah, because nobody wants to spend 25 minutes trying to put those needle bearings back in. The third member on this thing is removable from the front, sort of like a Ford 9-inch. That's going to house the ring gear, the pinion, and whatever kind of open differential is in there. We're going to yank that out. We're going to put our spool in, put it back in.
Extreme wear on the ring gear after Tony drives it. Go figure.
It might not have been me. Yeah, did good.
What's that noise?
Horsepower?
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it. So we'll let it warm up, check the fluids, make sure that new transmission is full, make sure we have enough coolant in there. We've got to let the smoke out of the new headers. Ugh,
Maybe we should take it outside.
probably. So we're here at Church Automotive Testing with our 66 Fury wagon. That 512 stroker is in there with new heads, intake, headers, and that big carburetor on top. And we're gonna try to get as much horsepower to this thing as we can. We're aiming for like 500 horsepower. And that would be one nasty grocery getter wagon.
She got a little timing in her.
Before hitting the dyno, we had to make some base adjustments to timing and air-fuel ratio. Once we were dialed in, we were ready to make our first serious pull on the dyno pad.
It sounded good.
Yeah. I think it needs more fuel.
Break it up,
Yeah. Okay, so we did a couple hard runs with our Fury. It's making good torque, 540 some wheel torque, but the horsepower's not where we want. It's 380 or so. I think we have to start playing with the fuel mixture, which means getting to that carburetor, changing jets, squirter nozzles, stuff like that. We'll get that going, it should be better.
Do you guys have a filter for that, or any kind of plate for the carb there? Because that's one thing we might be able to give a little more power, is just smoothing the anchoring of the carb.
Ollie sent us over this cool air cleaner. We're gonna put it on and see if it smooths out the airflow a little bit. We'll skip the gasket for now. You're a genius. What did that do? Like 398.
What? I like the way that we screwed around with it for 2 hours, and he's like, why don't you throw an air cleaner
Put an
on?
air cleaner on it, make 20
More-
horsepower. I love it. We're geniuses. We're clearly experts. We made a custom cold air intake scoop to see if we can hit 400 horsepower. The Zulsa said it'd be really hard to hit 400 horsepower with this thing. So we're gonna try to make it happen. What? Nice. 404 horsepower. All right. We're back in the shop with our Mustang. This thing's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's a good time.
The 200 horsepower that our 8650 is putting out has to push around 3,240 pounds.
That's a bit much.
So to make it fast, we need to lose a ton of weight. I'm talking like 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds?
1,000.
I don't think they make enough Sawzall blades to do that.
You're probably right. But I've got a different plan in mind. Instead, what we're gonna do is yank that 5-liter V8 Entrance out of the Mustang, jam it into this tiny British sports car, and make a 5 OMG. We picked up this 1964 MGB X race car on Craigslist, and it's the perfect candidate for this. A bunch of the sheet metal's been replaced with even lighter fiberglass. It's got some suspension upgrades, some knockoff wheels, a bit of a cage, no engine and transmission. We tossed this thing on the scales just to get an idea of how light it is as a rolling chassis. The way it sits now, it weighs 1,260 pounds. That means we can add 1,000 pounds of V8 and everything else we need to make this thing a driver and still hit our goal.
Can we get started now?
I'm ready to get started. The height of the steering rack is a little bit
Disconcerting?
unnerving.
Oh, it's gonna fit. Question is, will it still be able to roll after we get it in there?
Well, front of the water pump to the back of the bell housing,
Is
32 inches.
the worst that could happen. Now let's stick it in there.
This is a crazy idea.
I haven't had a laugh all day. This ought to be great.
It's a small car.
Whose idea was this?
I don't know. Hold on. It'd be nice to go back 4 inches.
Yes, top of the transmission is hitting the tunnel. We need to cut whatever we got to cut. Go ahead and pull it out.
I mean, it's gonna be a lot of work. So, I'm out here in the 5 OMG, one of the Malibu canyons, and this thing is a handful. Whoa, whoa! It's really tail happy, and the brakes are non-existent. This is a death trap of a car. Holy, woo! Man, this thing is out of control. It's like a little go-kart with a V8 in the front. Man, this car is fast.
I think I hear him.
This thing is way too fast for having 250 horsepower. Dude, this car is insanity.
Brakes are on fire.
Yeah, it is a death trap. Honestly, foot to the floor on the brakes, almost nothing happens. It is terrifying.
I think the upside, nothing leaks. Everything looks great.
So we did our job.
Yeah, sorta.
Perfect.
There we go. Woo! 250 horsepower, never felt so insane.
So this is the one thing I'm talking about with this car, with these small tires. It just... It does that everywhere.
Huh, you don't say.
Kind of sucks.
Seems to have something slipping in the back there.
That's what I was thinking. It was the clutch maybe was bad, or...
The tires might be bad. You wanna let me give it a shot and I'll see if I can figure out what the problem is?
Yeah, you should check it out.
Once we finished welding up the inner frame rails, we tacked the upper shock mounts into place. Then we double checked that they were level and in the right position, welded them up for good, and we were able to bomb the whole thing with some black spray paint. We already went through, chopped off about half of the frame, welded in these frame pieces that they provide, a bunch of different reinforcements, and this upper coilover mount to replace the old shock mount because we had to cut out a bunch of metal in here to get the clearance we need. The whole point of this thing is to fit a giant tire underneath Lucky's Chevelle. And as you can see, there's a ton of room now to fit a fatter tire. And that's what we're going for, right, Lucky?
What are all those extra parts for?
Okay, so there are a couple parts left. This is a reinforcement plate that goes underneath and will weld in just next to the lower 4-link forward mount. And this, they provide, is a coilover mount for your rear axle. Since Lucky already has provisions for coilovers on his Fab 9 rear end, we're not going to use this, but it's nice that it comes with the kit. We have a 255 5017 on here now, and we're going to try to squeeze a what size tire on there?
Well, the provisions are, the manufacturer, ABC Performance, they say you can fit a 3, 35, 30, 18, 19, 17, whatever you want. That would be great if I was just going straight. But I inadvertently may turn left or right from time to time, go in and out of a driveway, hauling the dog around the back of the car, groceries, whatever. So for articulation, I'm going to go with a 315. It's going to leave me a little bit of extra room on the inside. And I think that'll work out great.
Okay, so we've got Lucky's 66 Chevelle back down on the ground here on the lift. We pulled the body off the frame, we did all the frame stuff first, and now we're gonna go in and we're gonna install these wheel tubs from ABC Performance. Now you could do this with the body on, it would be a bit more of a pain, but it's definitely doable if you wanted to do it in your garage. You would probably cut the wheel wells out first, then use all that access to weld in the frame reinforcements and do all the cutting and stuff underneath, and then this would just be your final install afterwards. We're gonna use a little bit less of the wheel tub kit and leave a little bit more of our stock metal on there. So we're gonna trim this flange off and just have it meet on the flat surface. Okay, so we've got the tubs done. They look great. Frame is done. That looks awesome too. All we have to do is sandwich this thing back together and we can take it back out on the road for some more fun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Give it a shot. Well, this. I'll do it. I got it. You can do the second time.
Hardly fair.
Second time. We've got those fat 315 35 17s on the back of Lucky Chevelle that we fitted using that ABC Performance mini tub and frame kit. And I think this thing's got. You think it'll do a burnout?
You know, I think it will. I'm just scared that it will.
Well, then we should probably find out.